Hello and welcome. Today we're going to make a little stocking toy for our kitty cat friends. The things you'll need to make one of these toys are going to be a 4mm crochet hook, some yarn needles, some scissors, worsted weight yarn in 1 or 2 colors, up to you, whatever colors you like, some stuffing if you're going to fill it up, catnip if you're giving it to a cat that likes catnip, and I think that's everything. So we are all set. Let's go ahead and get started. Starting with whatever color you want the ribbing of your stocking to be, we're going to cross the long end over the short, and then we're going to reach through the loop to grab that long end again, pull it up to make a slip knot, and then we're putting our hook in there, pulling both ends to tighten it onto our hook. We're going to chain for 20. So to do that, we're going to wrap the yarn over our hook, pull it through that loop. So now we've got 2 loops, and that's our chain. So we're going to keep going until we have 20. Once we have our slip knot plus our 20 chains, we are going to make it into a little loop, making sure all the little V sides are facing you. Going into that very first chain, we're going to wrap our yarn over the or under the hook to slip stitch. So we're going through the first one and then through that last chain we made. So now we're working in a little circle here. We're going to be making single crochets in each one of those chains. So we're going to chain 1, and then on that very first one we're going to go in, wrap the yarn, pull it up, wrap the yarn again, pull through both of those loops. Sorry, my yarn is just absolutely covered in furs. Going into the next one, we're doing the same thing. We wrap, we pull up, we wrap, we pull through 2. So all the way around, when you get to the end, you should have 20 single crochets. So we go in, wrap under, pull up, wrap over, pull through both. Once you have all 20, we'll join the loop again, and we're going to keep going from there. Okay, we finished our 20 single crochets. We are going to join that very last single crochet we made to the very first one. So just going through the top loops of that first single crochet, wrap the yarn, and we're pulling it through that one and that very last one you made. So we're going to chain 1, and we're going to be working front post and back post stitches for the next round. So we're alternating between going through the front and then going through the back. This is just going to create a little ribbing. So instead of going through the V's at the top, we're going to go in and back from the post. So that part underneath the V is called the post of the stitch. So we're going to wrap, pull up, we'll wrap, pull through 2. So basically the rest of the stitch is just like a single crochet. So for the back one, we're going in through the back, and then the hook will come back out that way. So we're in the back of the post, wrap, pulling up through there. So now we have those 2 loops, wrap, pull through 2. So we're going to keep going. We're just alternating every other stitch. So we go through the front to make our front post single crochet, and then we go through the back of the next one to make our back one. So you should end up with 20 stitches if you're counting from across the top. So it's 10 of each. When we get to the end, we'll slip stitch to join again. You can see that little ribbing starting to come alive, and then we will get back together for round 3. Okay, we've finished that line of ribbing. We're going to join with a slip stitch to the very first part of that into the very last, and then we are going to be attaching the next color. So if you're going to keep the whole thing one color, you just keep going with the yarn that you've got there. If you are switching, we're just going to tie that, leaving the hook in that last loop. That's just going to keep that loop in there, and then we can get that knot as close to where we want it as possible. And then we are taking that red yarn, we're going to use it to, we're taking that red yarn, we're going to use it to chain 1, and then we are making 8 plain single crochets across the top. So we're back to working in our little V sections. So we can see they look a little different here. The front post and back post stitches made them a little different. We got a big V and then a little V. That's okay. We're using all of them. Once we get these first 8 plain single crochets done, we are going to be decreasing. So to do our decrease, we're going to go into the front loops only of those next 2 stitches, those next 2 little V's. So just those front legs. Those back ones are still there. We're going to wrap, pull through both of those, wrap, pull through those 2 on the hook. And you're going to repeat that one more time. So 8 plain, 1 decrease, then we're going to slip stitch to join again. And this is going to take us from 20 stitches down to 18. Once we get down to 18 stitches, we're going to keep going, just working around and around and around for the next 5 rounds. So rounds 4 through 9, just plain single crochets, finishing this decrease. And then we'll go ahead and do those on our own, and we'll get back together for round 10. Okay, we finished those first 9 rounds. We're going to start on our heel. If you're making yours all the same color, you can keep going with the red. I'm going to switch to the white just to make it easier for you to see what's happening. So we are going to chain 1. And oh, if you did white, but you're going to do the rest of the sock all one color, you can cut away that white now. But if you're using it for the heel, we're just bringing it forward and it stays on the inside of the toy. And so we are going to single crochet 9. So we're just working in one direction. So once you have those 9 single crochets, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our whole little thing here. And now we're going to work 9 going the opposite way. And then once we finish this row, we're just doing the exact same thing. At the end, we'll chain 1, we're going to turn, and then we are going to work 9 more. So go ahead, finish this 9, finish the next row of 9, and we will meet back up for number 13. So round 13 here, we are going to chain, we're turning again. We're going to single crochet into the first stitch here, and then we are going to work a decrease stitch in the next one. So we're just going to go into that first stitch, we're going to wrap, pull up, we're going to go into the next one, wrap, pull up again. Now we've got 3 loops there, and we're going to wrap and pull through all 3. So this is a little different than what we were doing before. That's okay. So now we've got 3 plain single crochets in the center. And then we've got another decrease after those 3. So we're going in, wrap, pull up, go in the next one, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through all 3. And then 1 plain single crochet at the end. We're gonna chain 1, we're gonna turn. So for round 14, we're gonna have a single crochet. And then we are going to decrease. And then in the center we have just 1 plain single crochet, then we're going to decrease again, and then that 1 plain single crochet at the end. So round 15 is going to be a little different. We're going to be working down the side of our heel. We'll be working 4 down the side, keeping the white yarn. Just kind of going into the edges there. 1, 2, you should end up with 4 in total. Once you get to that 4th one, we're right at the bottom there. And we're going to be switching back to that main color. If you're switching colors, you can just keep going if you're not. So I'm going to bring my red back over, and I'm just going to press it against the inside of the toy. So if I pull it like this, it's going to make it a little wonky. But if I push it up against the inside of the toy, then I have exactly how much yarn I need. So I'm going to finish that stitch with the red color. And now I'm going to single crochet across that part that we were sort of ignoring before. So that 9, that half that we didn't single crochet on before when we started our heel, now we're working our way around. And once we get back to the heel again, we're switching back to the white, and we're going to single crochet 4 up the other side of the heel. And we'll do the same thing with the white yarn. We're just gonna press it up against the inside of the toy. And if you're switching colors, you'll start that stitch with the color you're working with, and then you're gonna finish it with the other color. So bringing that across, and I'm just kind of pushing it down into the toy and finishing that stitch. And now I'm going to work the 4 up this side. So we're going in. And right at the top there will be our 4th one. And our last little decrease here with the white, we're going to single crochet 2 together. So those first 2 will get worked together. And then 1 plain single crochet. And then we'll work those last 2 together. And that's the end of our heel. So now we'll be working with the red yarn again. So we're going to chain 1, and then we're working around all the way back to the beginning here, but we are going to single crochet plain stitches in the first 3. And then we are going to decrease. So we're back to our fancy decrease here where we're going to go through the front loops only of the next 2 stitches. Those back loops are still there. We're going to wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through the 2 on the hook, and we're going to do that again. We got 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to decrease. We're just going to keep going all the way to the end. If I remember correctly, we're going to have 1 spare single crochet at the end, and you can just make that one a plain single crochet. Let's see, I'll stick with you. See if I'm remembering right. Decrease. We're almost back up at the top here. And we got that decrease again. And then our 1 spare stitch here at the end. So that's going to take us down to 16 stitches all the way around. And we're going to join with a slip stitch into that very first one of the round, chain 1. We're going to keep going. So we're going to keep doing this little loop of 16 plain single crochets. And we're going to do that for the next 17, 18, 19, 4 more rounds. So round 17 through 20, just plain single crochets. Go ahead and finish those up, and we'll work on the toe together. We are ready for the toe. We've got the foot done. If you want to switch back to your second color, you can. If you are going to switch back to a second color, you can be done with the main color here. I'm going to cut mine off because I'm switching back to the white, and I'm going to bring the white as close as I can over here, leaving my hook through that loop. I'm just going to tie that piece to my what's now my working yarn, and I'm going to tuck it inside. Okay, so we've joined. I'm going to chain 1 with my now new color, and then for my first 2 single crochets, they're going to be just plain old regular single crochets, and then we're going to start decreasing for the toe. So we've got decrease stitch, and we're just going to repeat that pattern. So 2 plain single crochets, and then we're going to decrease, and then after this there's just 1 last round to go. So go ahead and finish this one. We'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1, and then we're ready for the last one. Our last toe round here, we are going to have a plain single crochet in the first stitch, and then we're going to decrease. This is going to take us from 12 stitches down to 8, or at least some number close to that. As long as you're somewhere close to that, you should be a-okay. So once you finish this one, we're going to join, no chains this time, and once we have joined, we're ready to cut away the yarn on this end. We're going to add our catnip, our stuffing. If you want those things, totally optional with the catnip. And also, you don't have to close up the top. If you're using this just like as a little ornament, you can just tie a little loop of yarn at the top and hang it from a tree, or hang it on a mantle and have a little mouse stocking, whatever you want. So we're going to cut away the toe yarn, and we're going to tie that off This is where we're going to need our yarn needle. So we're wrapping the yarn over, pull through that last loop. And then our yarn needle, we are going to thread that tail on there, and we're going to weave it through those last few stitches to close up the hole. So once your yarn needle's on there, we're going in through the very first stitch, out through the next one. And we're going to keep repeating that all the way around. This is just going to give us something to pull on. It'll act like a drawstring to bring all that back together. And then we pull, and it pulls that little hole closed. So you want to make it as close together, as snug as we can, and then we're going to take our tail through any little loop of yarn there where we think the knot will lay nice and flat, and then we're just going to make a simple knot going back through that loop, and we'll pull that as tight as we can. There we go. And then we're going to put the yarn needle through the toe and just back out somewhere a few rows up. That's going to keep the tail kind of hidden in there, so we can put a little tension on that end, getting close to the toy without snipping any of the stitches. Just cut it off, and then it'll just kind of stay hidden in there. So again, if this was all you wanted to do, and if it's just a decoration, you can tuck all those extra tails in. Maybe just use your yarn needle to loop through back through there, and you've got a ready to go little ornament or a little doll stocking, whatever you want it for. But if you are going to give this to your cat, we're just taking all the tails, we're tucking them inside. Catnip would go in first if you're doing catnip. Then we're going to add stuffing all the way up to the top, and we'll close this up together. Okay, most of our stocking is done. If we're closing up the top, you're going to join me up here. We are going to attach some yarn through that starting chain we did. You can kind of see the other side of the chain there. It looks like little twisties there at the ends. That's where we're going to be working into. So we are attaching the yarn. I'm going to pull a loop of the yarn through that first place that I want to work into. And then I'm just going to double knot, leaving my hook in there so that that loop is the perfect size when we get going. And then the end that we just want out of our way, I'm just going to tuck it down into the stuffing. That way we don't have to weave anything in. And now we're going to work decrease stitches all the way around. So we're going in, wrap, pull up, in to the next, wrap, pull up, and then we're going to wrap and pull through all three. So we're just doing that all the way around. So the top bit has 20 stitches there. You should end up with just 10. Once you have the decreases done, we are going to slip stitch to join, so the beginning and the end of the round. And then we'll be taking our yarn needle once again to close up whatever's left of a little hole up there. So go ahead and finish all these decreases and we'll get back together. Okay, we finished our decreases. We're gonna slip stitch the very first stitch of that round to the very last one. And then we're gonna cut a medium length tail so we have something to work with. We are threading on our yarn needle after we tie this last knot. So we're going to wrap the yarn over the hook, pull it through that last little loop. So now that's all tied off and secure. And the tail goes on the yarn needle. And just like we did at the toe, we're just going to go in the first stitch, out the next one, all the way around, creating that little drawstring. And once our little drawstring is all the way back at the beginning, we are just going to give it a little pull and make it as snug as we can. That's also going to kind of flatten out the top. There we go. So grabbing a little loop there where you think that knot might lay nice and flat, going back through that loop, making a simple knot, And then tying that as tight as you can. I just kind of like push on the knot to get it as close to the toy as possible. And we're sending that through somewhere a few rows away, putting a little tension on there. So when we snip it away, the rest of the tail just pops back into the toy. Now we don't have anything to weave in. Our stocking toy is done. So you can give it to your kitty cats, friends. You can hang it from your tree. You can gift it to somebody else, whatever you feel like doing. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you had fun and I hope you enjoy little stockings.